Hello, and welcome to a list video, and I've not done one of these since I was in the States. That's how long ago I did one of these. And it's my ranking of the armies of Warhammer 40,000 within the lore. But I was given a very good idea by somebody on Patreon who asked me to have a look at the Primarchs. And I have a criteria of how I'm going to list these Primarchs, and that is combat ability. That is straight up combat ability. We're not doing anything else. We're not doing the lore, not doing anything like that. Who would win in a knockdown, drag-out fight between everybody on this list, essentially? Alright? So just before we start anything, we're going to put the Emperor right up here, just so you can see the power level that we're going with. The SS tier is essentially somebody who can give the Emperor some trouble. Alright? Now, what I don't mean is going to beat the Emperor. I mean is going to give him... It's going to make him think twice. You know, he's going to bloody his nose a little bit before he dies. Because none of these Primarchs can obviously take on the Emperor, but we'll see. We'll see, because I do have one of these Primarchs that I do think could actually take down the Emperor. Or maybe two of them, we'll see. So, first of all, if your Primarch doesn't make it into the top tier, or isn't declared as the overall winner, please don't get upset at me. This is just my opinion. This is just what I think. I've read a lot of Horus Heresy books. I've read a lot of most of the lore on each of the Primarchs. I would say I know quite a lot about the Warhammer 40,000 lore in terms of the Primarchs. Hence me doing the Warhammer 40k lore videos. But it's still just my opinion. And you could have other opinions, and that's completely fine. And whack them in the comments if you do have them. So, get your cup of tea out. Get painting your models. Let's talk about some Primarch, shall we? So, first of all, I think I'll go in the... I will go in the... in Legion order, I think. I think I will go in Legion order. So, essentially, anybody in S tier, anybody in any tier can beat anybody in that tier, if you know what I'm saying. It's a toss-up who's going to win that tier. So, we're going to start with Lionel Johnson, and he may be the Primarch of my own chapter. I've not decided yet. I think he will be, but we'll see. But I firmly put Lionel Johnson in S tier. That is, you know, obviously the Emperor would kill him if you ever got into a fight with him, if he was actually trying, but Lionel Johnson is actually a Primarch who does beat Leman Russ. No matter what anyone says or tells you, don't listen to what Space Wolf players tell you. He does beat Leman Russ. Leman Russ stops fighting. Yes, true, because he gets bored. But that still means you've lost, right? Because if the other guy then knocks you out, you've lost the fight, right? If we're in a UFC fight and I stop fighting and start laughing and the guy knocks me out, have I won that fight? No, I've lost it, right? Personally, I think Leman Russ and Lionel Johnson are almost exactly the same in power level. But I do believe that Lionel Johnson beat Leman Russ, and so Lionel Johnson is a better combatant than Leman Russ. You know, and that's nobody's fault but Leman Russ's for stopping fighting at the time. In terms of the Lion, we don't have very much else that goes towards his reputation among in fighting other Primarchs. What we do know is that not many other Primarchs wanted to cross blades with Lionel Johnson, right? Even Conrad Curse, who was a nut job, you know, didn't really want to fight Lionel Johnson. I mean, even when he's given the chance and they do end up brawling, you know, he loses against Lionel Johnson sword to sword. He can't beat him in a straight-up martial fight, so he drags him down to the floor and starts pounding his face in, right? So as a pure warrior, and he doesn't even win that fight, he's about to, but he doesn't. So as a pure warrior, I would say Lionel Johnson is among the very, 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 very top tier of Primarchs. And that is why he's in S tier. Alright? So, we are on Primarch number... In fact, I'll come back to 2 and 11. Right? Because that'll be a nice little surprise at the end. We're on to Primarch number 3. And that is Fulgrim. Right? So, here's the thing with Fulgrim. If we are going to put... If this list is about having Primarchs who are... if this list is about having Primarchs who have sheer combat ability against everything, destructive ability, Fulgrim would be nowhere near the top two, the S and A tier. He would be nowhere near those two, because Fulgrim is a duelist, Okay, he takes on single people one at a time, and he's extremely good at doing that. He's a fantastic duelist. Do I think, though, that Fulgrim would be able to stand up to Lionel Johnson? No. I think Lionel Johnson, from the capabilities that we've seen, will be able to beat Fulgrim. That is because, we have Fulgrim beating Ferris Mansus, but he's kind of powered by the Layer Blade at that point. So he has demonic influence over him as well. So he's fighting with no abandon. He's fighting with, just completely balls to the wall. So I honestly think that he wouldn't beat a Lionel Johnson. I think he would be too prideful, ironically, to beat a Lionel Johnson. He would try and beat Lionel Johnson blade to blade, and he wouldn't sacrifice his convictions. He wouldn't sacrifice his pride to beat Lionel Johnson, which is what I think he would have to do. And that's why I think Lionel Johnson would actually eventually beat Fulgrim sword to sword. So Fulgrim, unfortunately for him, goes in A tier. Now, A tier isn't even a bad tier. You still beat people in B and F, right? But Fulgrim is, his main drawback is that he is a duelist through and through, and so he would be a lot further down if we were going on sheer destructive power. He's in A tier, which is a really good tier, still. Simply because I do not think that without the Layer Blade, he would be able to take on somebody with the... Don't forget, Fulgrim is a very young, quote-unquote, Primarch, right? One of his first campaigns is the Layer campaign where he falls to Chaos, or he begins to fall to Chaos. He is not somebody with anywhere near the combat experience of a Lionel Johnson, who grew up leading crusades against demonic monsters on his own homeworld, and then became one of the greatest Primarchs. Lionel Johnson's victory roll is second only to Horus Lupercal, and Lionel Johnson was not found anywhere near as quickly as Horus Lupercal was. So, I honestly think if they were to fight each other, he would give Lionel Johnson a run for his money. Don't you get me wrong. He would definitely give him a run for his money. But Fulgrim is the exemplar. And not all... And this is what I'm saying. This isn't who is the best Primarch list, right? This is who would win a fight list. That's all it is. And Fulgrim's one of my favourite Primarchs. One of my 3 favourite Primarchs. Easily. And he's up there. But I honestly believe that in a single fight he wouldn't beat Lionel Johnson, and so he can't go in S tier. That's just how these tier lists work. I know they're a bit askew, but that's just how it goes. So, right, next, who do you have next? Jagatai Khan. So the Khan. So here's the thing with the Khan. Now I'm going to be sipping my cup of tea for quite a bit whilst I'm doing this video because it's going to be a big talky one. Here's my thing with the Khan. What goes against the Khan is that we know so little about him. Okay? We don't really know what his combat abilities are. We know he's feared, and we know that he is able to, duke it out with almost anything that's not a Primarch and kill it easily, as all Primarchs can do. We know Mortarian didn't really want to cross blades with him, but we haven't seen it happen yet. We've not seen them go really toe-to-toe. 1 or 2 skirmishes, yes, but not really toe-to-toe just yet, right? So, I don't think Jagatai Khan, unfortunately, is an S tier, just for that reason. In all honesty, I think he could go toe-to-toe with Lionel Johnson and it'd be a very close run thing, and it'd be a toss-up between them. But I don't have the evidence for that, because I don't have the evidence for that he can go toe-to-toe with a Primarch level being. I just can't put him in there. I just can't. Games Workshop haven't given me the tools to do so. I honestly think that he went up against Shards of Magnus, but that's a Shard of Magnus. It's not actually Magnus, right? I think he's an S tier. Okay. I think he's one of the best combat Primarchs out there, but I've not seen it yet. So he needs to go in A tier. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I honestly think that Jagatai Khan would probably beat the snot out of Fulgrim. Because, again, Fulgrim's the exemplar. He's the guy who is meant to... I honestly think he was the Emperor's heir apparent. I really do. I really, really, really do. Rather than anything else. I don't think he was ever meant to be the greatest warrior. Whereas, Jagatai Khan, I think, would absolutely beast Fulgrim, unfortunately, in combat. But I don't have the evidence for that, so he goes in A tier. Still a good tier, but, that's where he is. So... Now we have Leman Russ. Now, Leman Russ is, I would say, in terms of sheer combat ability, this is the interesting one. The Emperor's Executioner, quote-unquote. This is a guy who is apparently made to take on Primarchs. I don't see it myself, but the evidence is there. He goes toe-to-toe with Lionel Johnson, right? And he loses, as I said before, because he gets bored and starts laughing. Now, he does lose, and I'm just talking about, he does lose. I don't care what you say, he does lose. But he does lose because he gets bored and he stops fighting. When he goes up one-on-one with Horus Lupercal, when Horus is, still not quite charged by demons as much as he's going to be later on in the Heresy when he goes up against the Emperor, but still a very, very, very powerful version of Horus Lupercal, he stands up to him for quite some time before being worn down. He is about to lose that fight, do not get me wrong. And I'll be very interested to see what would happen if Horus fought Leman Russ one-on-one without any demonic taint, or without any powers of chaos surging through him, That would be very interesting. But he does stab Horus, and he nearly mortally wounds him as well. So I honestly think that Leman Russ is in S tier. He is up there. He's definitely up there. And the only reason I would place Lionel Johnson above him is on a technicality. Is because Lionel Johnson, we literally have the evidence right in front of us where Lionel Johnson beats Leman Russ. Right? That's it. That's the only reason why Lionel Johnson's above him. He is a phenomenal combat Primarch. And just like Fulgrim is not made to fight tons of people at once, he's not an ultra-destructive Primarch, he's a duelist. Well, I think Leman Russ is both of those things. He can do either. And he is, in reality, if we look into it, he's probably one of, if not the best combat Primarch. But he's below Lionel Johnson because, again, he lost the fight with Lionel Johnson. Just is what it is. That's how rankings work. So, who is next? Who is after Lionel Johnson? Do you know what? Why don't I just go on Lexiconum and look? A lot of you shouting at the screen now going, "It's Fat Purcha Arbos!" Yeah, I know. I just want to get this up so I know what I'm doing for later on. Because later on, there we go, Primarchs. Later on, Primarchs can get a bit confusing because there are 20 of them. Right, so, we have Rogel Dawn. Right, it is I, Rogel Dawn. Right, let's have a little look around here. So, Rogel Dawn. So, Rogel Dawn is an interesting one. Is a very, very interesting one because Rogel Dawn, in my opinion, is one of, if not one of the best combat Primarchs on sheer evidence. So, Rogel Dawn straight up defeats two of the lesser combat Primarchs, right? So, he defeats Alfarius and kills him. So, he has a Primarch kill on record. And he also defeats Fulgrim at the Siege of Terra, right? No, he doesn't kill him, but he definitely drives him back and beats him. So, in terms of sheer combat ability, again, Rogel Dawn is one of those force of nature Primarchs. He's like a refined Leman Russ, right? He has a big old chain axe. He's just this really massive Praetorian guy, immovable, doesn't budge, doesn't flinch, and that's Rogel Dawn. I think to kill Rogel Dawn would take an unimaginable level of power, and I don't think any of these Primarchs have the level to beat and kill Rogel Dawn. I don't. Which is why I don't think Rogel Dawn is dead, because I don't think a Chaos Champion will be able to kill him. I don't think any number of Chaos Warriors will be able to bring him down. The only person I think could bring him down is the Emperor himself, and that's why I'm putting Rogel Dawn in S tier. And these S tier Primarchs will fight it out at the end, by the way, and we'll find out which one of them is the best. But Rogel Dawn is very simple. He beats two Primarchs. He only ever gets beaten, quote unquote, once by Conrad Curse, and that's because he's caught completely off guard. He never loses his shit, really. He's very calm. Honestly, he's an S tier. I think if he went up against Leman Russ, well, we'll get to that at the end. But we will see. So, who is next? Alright, Conrad Curse. So, this may be a controversial one, because I really like Conrad Curse. And I think as a sheer destructive Primarch in close combat, he is very powerful. Okay? But, and there is a huge but here. In terms of his combat record against Primarchs, when he goes up against Lionel Johnson, does he belong in S tier so far? When he goes up against Lionel Johnson, he's beaten by a better combatant, and the only reason he gets the upper hand is because he starts brawling with him, right? Again, still, that's his combat style. That's great. Okay, so we'll chalk that one up as a draw. That's a very creditable draw. Could he beat Lemon Russ? Probably not. Probably. I know Lemon Russ was one of the Primarchs who feared Conrad Curse. He actually said he wouldn't want to fight Conrad Curse because he's too unpredictable, right? I think that's the thing that Conrad Curse has going for him, is his sheer unpredictability. Like, no one really knows what he can do. But I honestly think Conrad is somewhere between S and A tier. I don't think he really belongs in A tier, and I don't think he really belongs in S tier either. Because he actually comes to blows with Rogel Dawn and nearly kills him, but it's because Rogel Dawn is not expecting a fight, and he just jumps on Rogel Dawn and starts beating the shit out of him. So, I can't not put him in S tier, but I really don't want to. Because we don't have a Primarch win under his belt. We don't have one with Lemon Russ either, to be fair. But Lemon Russ we have... he goes up against Horus and wounds a demon-infested Horus, right? Horus is nearly at SS tier when Lemon Russ stands up to him and nearly kills him. And gets a draw out of him. So, honestly, he's going in S tier... But when we get to the end of this and we start having to fight each other, he's not going to win the overall thing. I'll tell you that right now, okay? So, who is next? Well, next is somebody who definitely could win the whole thing, and that's Sanguinius. Sanguinius, he is one of those Primarchs that, if he lets himself go, and lets himself completely go schizo, he could be an SS tier. He literally could be an SS tier. If he really lets himself seethe with anger and go for it and become and kind of almost become cornate in his outlook, he could be an SS tier. This could be a guy who could actually take on the Emperor and whilst not kill him, seriously give him a bloody nose. You know? So, it's the most easy decision in the world. He's going in S tier. Okay? And he is, one of those guys who... I can't see any of these Primarchs beating Sanguinius in S tier so far. I might change my mind towards the end of the video. We'll see. We will see. But, alrighty. So, who is next? Ferris Mansus. Oh, my boy, Ferris Mansus. Okay, so... Ferris Manus' combat record, they've done our boy dirty, haven't they? He loses to Fulgrim a few times before he dies. Once on his flagship, when Fulgrim invites him to join Horus's cause, he refuses, and they come to blows, and Fulgrim basically knocks him out, which is not a great look. And Fulgrim is one of the best duelists, I get that. He is an extremely good duelist. But... being knocked out by Fulgrim and then killed by Fulgrim, let's not forget, a demon-infested Fulgrim, but a Fulgrim nonetheless, is not a great look. I don't think Ferris Mansus is designed to be one of the best combat Primarchs. I think he's designed to be a creator, as a few of these Primarchs are, that the main strength isn't being in combat. So we have our first B-tier Primarch. He cannot go in A tier because Fulgrim kills him and knocks him out, but even before he kills him. So he can't go in A tier. Big shame. I really like Ferris Mansus, but there we go. That's where he is. He's in B tier. And we don't get that much evidence of him because, quite simply, he doesn't get that much time in the limelight because he dies, unfortunately. So, next. Angron. Here's an interesting one. So, Angron, it depends what Angron we're talking about. If we're talking about, we're talking Primarch, so we're not talking demonic Primarchs, Dawkins Primarchs. So, you know, well, the reason why I'm using Fulgrim with a demon in him rather than normal Fulgrim is because he still is the normal Fulgrim, right? He's just got his mind clouded. He's not like supercharged by demon. No, he's still using his own abilities. Angron, before becoming a demon Primarch, was a top tier. Well, not really a top tier Primarch, but he had one main weakness, and it showed all of the time. He was single-minded and bloody. And so, whilst he was a very, very good combat Primarch, he didn't have the peripheral awareness to be able to take on foes that could come at him from all sides. And I think all of the people in S tier right now, in terms of being able to fight, even Conrad Curse, would be able to dance around you and come at you from all sides. Angron would have his shit pushed in by Sanguinius. He would be annihilated by Lionel Johnson, because Lionel Johnson is just too stoic. He's too calm. Like, he would be able to just because of the pride that Angron has in being able to beat people mano a mano, he would play right into Lemon Russ's hands, right? And even though Lemon Russ is technically beaten by him in a duel, Lemon Russ is letting Angron beat him. He's sitting back and saying, yeah, okay, I want to teach you a lesson through, yeah, you may be able to beat me, but I've surrounded you with all my forces, and I didn't even have to fight back against you, and I could just kill you now with the flick of my wrist, right? That was the lesson he wanted to teach. I honestly think, and I think Lemon Russ actually says this as well, if he actually got to fight Angron one-on-one and actually fight him, he would beat him. And I'm of that persuasion as well. So we have another A tier Primarch. I honestly think Demon Angron is a different proposition entirely. I think there are quite a few. He would give people an S tier run for their money as a Demon Primarch. But as a normal Primarch without any demons or anything like that, I think he would probably... Him and Fulgrim would be a really good fight. And that would be a toss-up. And with Jagatai Khan, no one knows, okay? And that's his own fault. But I think with Fulgrim and Angron, that would be a toss-up fight. And I'd love to see it. I think that would be a better fight than most of the people in the S tier, to be honest with you. But anyway, moving onwards. All right, Rabute Gilliman. Oh, so we do have quite a lot of evidence for Gilliman. He fights Lorgar, and he's not able to beat him. And that's not demonic Lorgar, it's normal Lorgar. This is really difficult, because, again, he's one of those Primarchs who... His strength isn't in combat, really. His strength is in empire building. And whilst, yes, he's a Primarch, so he's going to be able to kill almost anything he comes across, I think other Primarchs is a different thing entirely. I honestly think I want to put him in A tier. But I think the more visceral Angron would be able to beat him. I do. Because I think Gilliman is a nice guy. He's a good bloke, and that's just, off the top of my head, I think he's a good bloke. I don't think he would have the wherewithal to stand up against the sheer ferocity of Angron. I think Jagatai Khan, even on the scant evidence that we have, would probably beat Gilliman. And we do have a short story where Lionel Johnson's coming down to visit Gilliman. And, you hear Gilliman talking to his adopted mother on Ultramar. And he literally says, she says, "Are you afraid of him?" And he says, "Yes." He just comes out and says it, "Yes. Yes, I'm afraid of him." Because he's a better, the implication is he could beat me. If he came down here to kill me, he could beat me. Because at this stage, Gilliman knows that he's creating a new empire because he thinks the Emperor might be dead. They think Terra might have fallen. So, he's already heard what happened to Magnus the Red, of course, and so he thinks, oh shit, maybe he's here to kill me. So, I honestly think he's in B tier as a combatant. As a sheer combatant, he's in B tier. I don't think he'd beat. I don't think he'd beat Angron. I don't think he'd beat the Khan, and I think he would give Fulgrim a really good run for his money. But I don't think he'd beat him. I think it'd be a toss-up. But because he would lose against the majority of the people in A tier, he goes in B tier. Unfortunately, sorry, Rabute, but That's where you go. So, Mortarian. So, interesting one. Mortarian. Demon Mortarian, very, very powerful. Probably be somewhere between S and A tier. This isn't Demon Mortarian, though. This is normal Mortarian. And in all honesty, we don't have that much in the way of evidence for who he could and couldn't beat as a non-demonic Primarch. What I would say is that his combat abilities and his sheer persistence would be enough to beat a lot of the people in B tier. Which is why he's not going there. I honestly think he's an A tier. And that's because, again, I think he would outlast Guilliman. Sheer just outlast him. And I think the rage of Ferris Mansus would probably... I think Ferris Mansus would give him one hell of a matchup. He would give him one hell of a matchup. I think Mortarian is between A and B tiers. I really do. I think he's somewhere between there. In his demonic form, he's somewhere between A and S tier. But he's between A and B tiers for me. And you know what? I said I wouldn't put him there. I think in the interest of fairness, I'm not sure whether he'd beat... I don't think he'd beat the Khan. I think we've already seen it in the Horus Heresy novels so far. He's afraid of the Khan. He doesn't want to fight him. I don't think he'd beat him one-on-one. I think he'd probably beat Fulgrim out of sheer tenacity. And I think it's a toss-up between him and Angron, who's going to win out of demonic form. I think he probably would beat Angron, to be honest with you. Yeah, so he's going to an A tier. Fine. He's going to an A tier. Not quite top-level Primarch. He belongs between A and B tier. If he's in his demonic form, he belongs between A and S tier. There you go. That is my thoughts on Mortarian. So, Magnus the Red. Right. Okay, so Magnus the Red can be one of two things. In one way, Magnus the Red can be as powerful as he wants to be, because he decides how big he is and he decides how strong he is because of the warp. On the other hand, we've only seen him fight one Primarch, and Lemon Russ basically threw him across his knee and spanked him until he broke his back, essentially. So I honestly can't put him anywhere near S tier. He would be annihilated by any of those guys. Even Conrad Curse. I think even Conrad Curse would take on Magnus and beat him if it's a straight up fight. If he's using his psychic powers, then yes, he would be definitely qualifying for A tier. But there are too many things that go against his psychic powers, his psychic powers in the setting. The Sisters of Silence being one. If any of those are around him at the time, job done. He's getting... If a Sister of Silence is around, or if his warp powers are depleted in any way whatsoever, he's an F tier as a Primarch. You know. And because of that, I can't put him in A tier on psychic power alone. You know, unfortunately, which is why he's in B tier. I think he and Ferris Mansus and Guilliman would have a good straight up fight, you know, and I think, you know, with his psychic power, he really belongs in A tier. But I really don't like to put somebody as a combatant into A tier just because they're a good psyker. There are other things in Warhammer that you need to be good at to be in that tier. And to be honest with you, there are certain Primarchs in that A tier who might be able to nullify or completely ignore psychic powers. Mortarian being one, right? Mortarian is extremely resistant to psychic manipulation, as we know. And Angron is too angry to fucking care. I think he just wouldn't give a shit. He would just charge forward and try and lop your head off. So, I don't think Magnus would beat anybody in A tier, so that's why he's in B tier. And all those three guys in B tier would have a hell of a good fight. And on his day, he could beat any of these Primarchs, by the way. Right? If it was on his day. And that's what I mean. What I'm saying is that Guilliman... I'm not saying Guilliman cannot beat Lionel Johnson. He probably could on his day. But most of the time, like 90% of the time, Lionel Johnson's going to tear him a new one, essentially. So, next one is very interesting, because it's the arch traitor himself. You have Horus Lupercal next. And so Horus before falling to chaos was considered an S tier Primarch. He was considered a guy who could go up against anybody in the S tier and give them a run for their money, and I agree. I have a different opinion, though, on the people who gush about Horus Lupercal as being almost Emperor level straight off the bat. I don't believe he is. I think Horus Lupercal is somewhere between S and A tier. The upper end of A tier towards S. I honestly think everybody but Curse in this tier would give him a serious run for his money and might even be able to kill him without being powered by Chaos. I do. He does beat Curse, and that means he's automatically qualifying for S tier. But I think Lemon Russ, as we just seen, even with demonic powers burgeoning within him, not fully powered, but almost, Lemon Russ was able to land a blow on him that nearly killed him. Okay? Lionel Johnson beat Lemon Russ, and so I can't have him being above any of these two, so he's in S tier, but only just. Now, towards the end of the Horus Heresy, of course, he's in S tier, and he's an S tier Primarch who is then powered by the gods of chaos, and so yes, he is briefly in SS tier before the Emperor just decides to stop playing around and kill him. He's briefly in SS tier, but even at the very height of his powers, I would say the Battle of Molech is the height of his powers when he's just come back out of the portal there, and he's now fully charged by all demonic gifts and stuff. That is the height of Horus's powers for me. And I think at the height of his powers, he is mid-level S tier. That is how powerful some of these Primarchs are. He is mid-level S tier. In that, I think he would now beat Lionel Johnson. He would definitely beat Conrad Curse. He'd probably almost beat Lemon Russ. I think he would beat Lemon Russ, to be honest with you. And I think he might take Sanguinius to a draw at that stage. Just after Battle of Molech, I think he might be able to take Sanguinius to a draw. It's weird, isn't it? We'll come to it in a minute, but those are the S tier Primarchs so far anyway. So Horus is definitely in there as an S tier Primarch. So Vulcan, my boy, you're just too nice. He is a perpetual, and he can take a lot of damage. But is he a duelist Primarch? No. Is he a Primarch who can take on many foes at once? Not really. He's not designed for that. He can do, but he's not designed for it. Right? So no, I firmly believe that Vulcan is in B tier, and I know I shouldn't, but we don't see enough of him. Every single time I see Vulcan, he's being twatted by Conrad Curse, or anybody on the S tier would make mincemeat out of him. It's because simply he's not made for central combat. He's another exemplar Primarch, just like Fulgrim. He's made to make things, to build things, to champion people. So I honestly think he is in B tier. I think he would give anybody in B tier a run for their money, but I think going into A tier he would struggle. And against Mortarian, he would struggle. Against Angron, who's fully charged up and angry, he would really struggle. The Khan, I'd probably think, would be able to beat him. And Fulgrim is a duelist, so he'd be in B tier. And nowhere near S tier, of course, because one of those Primarchs regularly beats him on a regular basis. And the rest are more powerful than that Primarch, in my opinion. So, who is next? Well, we missed Purcha Arbo, so I'll come back to him in a second. Yeah, we missed Purcha Arbo. So, Purcha Arbo. Now, this is just to show you I'm not biased. Right? I think Purcha Arbo is an A tier. Right? He's not an S tier. He's nowhere near S tier. In fact, he's at the bottom end of A tier. And the only reason Purcha Arbo is an A tier is because he beats up Demon Primarch Angron. That's the only reason why he's at the bottom of A tier. That's the only saving grace for him. It's a really cool moment, but it is the only saving grace for him is that he beats a Demon Primarch Angron. I think the best thing about Purcha is his brain, is how he's able to outthink other Primarchs, like Angron. I honestly think against any other Primarch, he would struggle. In A tier, he would give all of these Primarchs a good fight. A really good fight. We know full well that Fulgrim is scared of him, you know? If you've read Angel Exterminatus, he knows that Purcha has the power to just batter his brain into the back of his head. So yeah, he belongs in A tier. I can see him having a good fight with all these guys. The guys in the top tier, the top combat Primarchs, would probably kill him. In fact, they definitely would kill him. So yeah, that's where I'm going with Purcha. So next, Lorgar. Here is a very, very interesting one. Psychically awakened Lorgar is in S tier. Alright? Psychically awakened Lorgar is definitely in S tier. Non-psychically awakened Lorgar, which is what we're going to be using, because it's the Primarch, without any of his demonic powers, is struggling to make B tier. Okay. When he fights Guilliman in the First Heretic, he really struggles, and it looks like he's going to lose. Which, is an indictment, considering how much Guilliman is not really a combat Primarch. So unfortunately, I'm Lorgar fans. I really like Lorgar. And, barely a few months after this, when Chaos start charging him up, he would be in S tier. But we're not going on Demon Primarchs. We're not going on when he's fully charged up. We're going on, the Primarchs. And unfortunately for him, he is an F tier. As a combat Primarch. As an interesting Primarch, he's in double S tier, right? As a Primarch who, when he's at the height of his powers, is easily in S tier, right? But as a Primarch, leading his Legion, unfortunately, he's an F tier as a combat Primarch. You know the criteria. If you can't beat the guys in the rank above you, you're in the rank below. And that's just how I feel on that one. Corvus Korax. Okay, very interesting, this one. Okay, so Corvus Korax. He does stand toe-to-toe with Night Haunter. But because of his secretive nature, we don't really know that much about Corvus Korax. I'd think, in all honesty, he's probably somewhere in the middle. He's a middling Primarch in terms of combat ability. His main focus isn't on duels. His main focus is on ambush and assassination. So if you let Corvus Korax play that way and be that kind of a Primarch, then yeah, he could be at the upper end of A or S tier. I think, in all honesty, he would struggle to beat Jakatai Khan, definitely. He'd probably struggle against Fulgrim. He'd probably struggle against Mortarian. Perturabo, I'm not sure. That's a toss-up. And Angron, I'm not sure. That's a toss-up, right? Just on their personalities and how they fight. I think he would beat... I think he's a solid B tier. I really do. And again, this doesn't mean he's a bad Primarch. This just means that in one-on-one fights, he'd probably be in this B tier here. He'd probably be here. That's because I think he would have a good fight with Vulcan, with Magnus, with Guilliman, and with Ferris Mansus. I think he would beat the snot out of, and he does beat the snot out of, Lorgar, right? As soon as Conrad Curse steps in and saves Lorgar's life at Eastvarn 3, what does Korax do? He evacuates straight away. He doesn't want to fight Night Haunter, right? Because he knows he can't beat him, right? There's just, and that's not. I love Corvus Korax, but he knows he's onto a loser if he comes up against someone of that ilk in pure combat ability. So he is in B tier, and again, I'll stress it just once before. Lorgar could beat Lionel Johnson on his day, even without any demonic powers or anything like that, right? It all depends on the situation. But if we run simulations, especially in my head, knowing the lore as I do, you know, Lionel Johnson would beat Lorgar 70+% of the time, right? So that's why, you know, he's down there. Anyway, Alfarius. Alright, so, again, Alfarius and Omegon, if they're fighting together, that's a big, dangerous prospect, but they're not. They're fighting separately. And I honestly feel that their strength isn't in close quarters combat. It's in the Legion itself, the Alpha Legion itself, and how it operates. We have another F tier Primarch on our hands. Again, in terms of interest, SS tier, right? In terms of how they go to war, probably S tier, right? Yeah, if we're going on what Legion would beat what Legion, yeah, we're going in. They're probably an S tier somewhere, right? They're really, really powerful. But you know, when Alfarius comes up against Rogel Dawn, he's no match for him, and he gets killed. So he's nowhere near S tier. I think any of the combatants in A tier would probably kill Alfarius Omegon. And in B tier, again, all of those Primarchs would probably kill Alfarius Omegon because combat is not their strength. They're basically large Astartes. That's what they're described as. Large, very large Astartes warriors. Because they're meant to blend into their legion. And so unfortunately they're in F tier in terms of a sheer combatant. So let's go with the two unknowns. And the two unknowns, now, brace yourselves. Right. I have a very good reason for this. My theory for why the two lost Primarchs were lost was that at least one of them was a carbon copy of the Emperor himself. At least one. At least one. And I think both were susceptible to demonic taint. And one of them actually became infested by a demon when he was sucked away from the laboratory, and that's why they were erased. Because they're too powerful to be left out there. Right? So, that's why I think they're up there with the Emperor, because I think at least one of them is a carbon copy of the Emperor himself, a backup, so to speak, to hold his soul should the Emperor's body ever die. So, now let's go into who is actually the best combat Primarchs. Let's look at the S tier. So, very simply, let's do with Horus. Would Horus beat? Let's go from the top. Would Horus beat Lionel Johnson? Ooh. I honestly think it's a toss-up. It's a coin toss between the two. Oh. I'm going to say... Oh my god. It really is 50-50. It really is. So we can draw it. That is a draw. Lionel Johnson against Horus is a draw. Without any demonic taint or anything like that. Mano a mano, that's a draw. I think Horus's Chthonian nature may lead him to either win or lose. That's where it's going to be decided, because he can be very angry and very prideful. And I think that's where he could win or lose. You could let it drive him to victory, or let it drive him to defeat, one of the two. Could he beat Leman Russ? Without demonic powers? That's another draw for me. It really is. Without demonic powers, that's another draw for me. I think demonic Horus would beat Leman Russ. It's his own hesitation that means that he can't beat him, you know. But I think it's another draw. Would he beat Rogel Dawn? Now, here's the interesting one. I do think he would beat Rogel Dawn. I think, unfortunately, his sheer combat prowess would be enough to beat Rogel Dawn. Rogel Dawn is a top tier Primarch, but I don't think he's in the upper echelon of the best of the best. Rogel Dawn's main thing is that he builds things, right? He builds wonderful things. And he's probably one of the best Primarchs, because being a combat Primarch isn't even his favourite thing, and he's still really good at it. But I would still think that Horus would be able to beat him, unfortunately, for him. Would he beat Conrad Curse? Yes. So Horus, without any demonic powers, would beat the snot out of Conrad Curse. Definitely, in my view, World Breaker against Gauntlets. I just can't see it. The Talon of Horus against Gauntlet. Yeah, I honestly think he would beat the snot out of Conrad Curse. About 80% of the time. Could he beat Sanguinius? No. So Sanguinius, with no demonic powers on Horus's side, Sanguinius would beat Horus. Unfortunately, yeah, not by a lot, but he would, because none of these Primarchs beat the snot out of the others. But I think Sanguinius would beat Horus. So Horus is above Conrad Curse. Let's put him here. Sanguinius is ahead of him. And these three are joint top at the moment. So, and he would beat Rogel Dawn as well. So let's do Conrad. So we can get this out the way. I don't think Conrad would beat Rogel Dawn when they're both prepared and ready to fight. But I think it would be a very good fight. I think it would be 51% Rogel Dawn, 49% Conrad Curse. So it would be very, very, very close. I don't think he'd beat him. And I don't think he'd beat any of the others either. Okay. Weirdly, his combat style means he would come closest to beating Lionel Johnson, because we've seen it happen. But I still don't think he'd beat him in a one-on-one fight, that went the distance. So there we go. So he remains where he is. Rogel Dawn remains where he is. What will Rogel Dawn do? So I think Rogel Dawn would beat Conrad Curse. Again, I don't think he would beat Horus Lupercal. I don't think he would beat Lehman Russ, for obvious reasons. I obviously don't think he'd beat Sanguinius. And I think Lionel Johnson and Rogel Dawn would have a knockdown, drag-out fight. And I think because of the two of them... Again, a lot of these pairings, mean that things may be a bit out of kilter. So when I say one Primarch might be able to beat another one, you'll say you might be able to sit there and think, well, hang on, why can Lionel Johnson beat this guy? Or why is Lionel Johnson above somebody who beat somebody that Lionel Johnson got beat by? If you know what I'm saying. That is because when you pair Primarchs up, their strengths and weaknesses go against each other, and that's how we accrue who wins and who loses. So I think it'd be 51% Lionel Johnson and 49% Rogel Dawn. So Rogel Dawn will be staying where he is. A very, very respectable 5th place for Rogel Dawn. So we're in the top 4. Obviously, Horus stays where he is. So he has got a very good 4th place. Well done to Horus. And the top 3. Right, okay, this is where we're at the end game now. So I'm going to take a quick swig of my cup of tea. Alrighty. The top 3. What do we have? Let's go with Lehman Russ first. Does Lehman Russ beat Sanguinius? No. I don't think he does. I think Sanguinius, about 51% of the time, beats... Probably more than that, actually. About 60% of the time, beats Lehman Russ. And I'm going to be quite honest. I think Sanguinius would beat Lionel Johnson 60% of the time as well. So Sanguinius will be the top tier combat Primarch of them all, in my opinion. Who would win between Lionel Johnson and Lehman Russ? That is a 50-50 fight for me. And the only tiebreaker that we have is that they did actually fight each other, as I said right at the start of the video, and Lionel Johnson knocked out Lehman Russ. That is the only tiebreaker. But these guys could fight for years and not get a winner if they were actually both trying to win. But I can't ignore the facts. There we are. So, congratulations to you Blood Angels players out there. Sanguinius, in my opinion, is the most powerful combat Primarch. Mainly because he actually stood up to a demonic Horus Lupercal, nearly beat him. And, was defeated. He was overpowered and defeated by Horus Lupercal, who was possessed by all 4 Chaos Gods. So it took that much to beat Sanguinius. And let's not forget, Sanguinius had fought in the entire Siege of Terra, had killed dozens of greater demons, including Kabanda, who's like one of the biggest ones that Khorne has, I think if we had a fresh Sanguinius against a roided up Chaos, roided up Horus Lupercal, I think that would have been a very close fight. And I think that would have been a 51% Horus Lupercal roided up to 49% Sanguinius. That's how powerful I think Sanguinius actually is. I think Sanguinius is a Primarch who is an anomaly. I don't think he was ever meant to be that powerful. I don't think the Emperor ever wanted him to be that powerful. I think his circumstances and his mutation made him as powerful as he was, and that's why he's one of my favourite Primarchs. One of the Dauntless Four, as far as I'm concerned. My favourite Primarchs being Lionel Johnson, Fulgrim, Sanguinius, just because of his sheer coolness, and Purcha. So, that is my list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think? That has been a doozy of a video to record. That was extremely tiring. Love you all a long time. Show me what you think in the comments below. Please support the video, support the channel, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Become a member of the channel if you want to. Join us on the Discord. Patreon's down there too. Love you all, and speak to you next time. Have a good one.